everyone. It's that time of the week again. Welcome to OzByDrone. I'm Greg.
Well, I'm John. Hi, everybody. Great to be back with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming, John. And we see you've got some nice, cool views out there today.
Yeah, I do. Look, I'll give you a quick little look. I am up at home on the boat here, and you can see it's an absolutely beautiful winter's day here in Sydney. I'm in Pittwater, up on the northern beaches. So, yeah, it's a little cool, a little chilly. But
I was about to say, it must be a low wind day for you to be up there on the upper deck today.
Oh, yeah, I've got the screens up. You know, it's absolutely fine. I don't mind sitting in the sun when it's cool. It's nice.
Is that a controller? Is that a controller I hear beeping?
Oh, yeah, hang on, I'll kill that. It is. I've been playing in the background. Here it comes. You can hear that. Everybody would know that familiar sound, of course, on this show. You wouldn't get away with that. But, yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
Just been doing, for those of you that are flying the Mavic 2, you'll know there's been a firmware upgrade recently. And interestingly, right off the bat here, we've been told we've got a range increase from software, which is always believed to be possible from everyone. And apparently now the range has been increased by a couple of kilometres. FCC now 10-kilometre range for the Mavic 2. And a number of other nice, interesting little upgrades. So check it out if you haven't upgraded your Mavic yet. And I expect to see lots of range check videos to see if there's a difference in there. We'll defer to our expert audience to see what the results are.
I'd be interested to know what they're theoretically doing to get that extra range. Have you heard anything?
Well, you know, again, we know these aircraft, the hardware is all controlled by software. So the transmitter, of course, would have an amplifier involved, and so how the amplifier has been tweaked, I know that you can change transmission power quite easily, and I've done it with hardware before, but I've never done it with software. So now everything's based on the chip and on the processor. And look, people have been saying for a long time that this was just a software thing, and of course that's how you would limit the power from FCC to CE. So that if you're in Europe,
absolutely, I can 100% agree with going that way, but going the other way and boosting, if you're already on FCC power, they've got to be doing something else in terms of the protocols or the other underlying information, because it just doesn't make sense that you can, well, we're already at FCC power, let's turn it up beyond there. They can't be doing that.
Well, my feeling, Greg, is that actually the transmitter is a little more powerful than that, and what they're doing is they're limiting it to FCC and then limiting it to CE as well. And so that would make more sense to me that way. And of course, we know that from our good friends in No Limits that this has always been a possibility to change from one to the other with changing the geo position of the aircraft. But now it looks like we're going to be looking for a way to change the transmission amplifier within the unit. So that'll be really interesting.
Okay, have to check up on that as time goes by. But for now, let's get into our regular part of the show and get into the news. And I've just realised that our title slide A1, is not on the screen.
I'll do it for you. Here we go. News.
There we go. So the news, as always, is your drone healthy? Our news is brought to you by Air Data UAV. Is your drone healthy, or is it about to surprise you on your next flight? Don't wait to find out. Discover under the hood information and review early signs of problems before you take off again. Use discount code OzByDrone20 for a 20% discount. And as always, you can try it out for free. There is a free plan available with Air Data as well. Lots of really useful information under the hood about your drone. And our first story today, Prince Harry and Meghan are going to sue the paparazzi. Specifically, they filed a lawsuit in California on July 23rd against unnamed paparazzi photographers for allegedly taking, quote, illegal, unquote, photographs of their son Archie. Now, here's a question for you, and this is interesting because I know that there was a recent case where that's been discussed on Ken Heron's show, where a guy was arrested and charged and convicted for taking off from his own house and then flying in navigable airspace without breaking any other rules because the court there found that he was trespassing. What's your thought, John? When is it? What's the deal?
Well, there's a couple of things here that we need to think through about what laws were broken. I think that the airspace laws and where you fly are one issue. Taking photos and publishing photos is a completely separate issue. You would have to argue that if you didn't have a camera on your aircraft at all of any kind and no way of recording any personal information at all, you're just an aircraft. You could make the argument though that if the paparazzi were in a helicopter and use a long lens photo, they could have got the same photo. The drone is not the bad guy here. It is the person who's made a choice to profit from publicising a photo. And so if they'd kept the photo to themselves, guess what? If you'd taken that photo in question here and kept it to yourself privately and no one ever knew it existed, there wouldn't be a problem. There wouldn't be the photo. It doesn't exist. So we really need to sit back and work out where the illegalities was. But I say again, and I always use this as a test case. If I can hire a helicopter and I can go into and take a long lens photo with me, I can do pretty much what I could do with a drone. But is it legal in a helicopter? That's the question to ask. And probably not illegal to take a photo from a helicopter. But here's the thing again, I say it, what you do with that photo is what you've got to be is going to be put up as a challenge. And then you need to stand and answer for your actions. The photographer that took those photos and published them clearly wanted to profit from them. And the people who were being photographed probably weren't profiting. And so, they've obviously a case. I'm just disappointed that the drone will get dragged into this. That's my problem, and the drone isn't the bad guy here. That's typical, of course, of these sort of cases. Everyone will say, those drones, there goes our privacy. It's not the issue.
Yeah, privacy definitely is a concern. I've just had a look at a few things elsewhere, and I'll quickly first comment about Australian law. And it says, quote, any person is entitled to look over the plaintiff's fence to see what goes on in the plaintiff's land. If a plaintiff desires to prevent this, the plaintiff can erect a higher fence. Or in other words, if you want privacy, you have to create privacy. That's the first thing. The second thing in Australian law is if you're in a legal position, you can take photographs. That's the second aspect that I understand in Australian law. Having said all of that, don't be, for lack of a better description, a dickhead. You don't need to go and invade someone else's privacy. The laws on privacy, I think, are, in my opinion, unclear. But certainly that advice that I read is straight out of a legal case back in, I think it was the 1930s, 1937, Victoria Park Racing and Recreation Ground versus Taylor. And this racing ground was suing someone who decided to call a race over the radio by sitting in a hotel building across the road and looking out the window rather than paying for a booth. So that's where that kind of precedent came from. If you need to create privacy, build a bigger fence.
Yeah,
anyway,
it does make sense. And I think, the other thing to keep in your mind too, and I just say this as my own thinking, I usually extend the courtesy of privacy to other people that I expect myself. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't necessarily fly my aircraft down into someone's backyard to photograph something personal or private of theirs, because I wouldn't. That's not the standard. I wouldn't expect that or think that should happen to me either. So when I'm thinking those things through, I always sort of say, well, I'm at 45 metres, and we know what altitude does. We're all pilots here, and we fly these things. With some decent altitude on, you're not really taking much of a photo anyway. You could argue that point, but really a part of it is the nuisance factor of the aircraft flying low and having that feeling of invasion of privacy by the aircraft being in a position also that seems threatening in terms of privacy. So, just think it through. What would you expect would be reasonable for your own standards?
Yeah. Look, we're in agreement. Like I said, don't be a dickhead. You don't need to do that. If you are flying over someone's property and you're not trying to do bad stuff, then you should be able to fly. That's kind of what I'm saying in a nutshell. Yep. But let's move on to our second story. and this one was a close call. So this is out of the UK. On March 14, a Virgin Atlantic passenger jet inbound for Orlando took off. Soon after leaving the runway, a flight attendant caught sight of something through the window. The flight attendant was a former drone pilot and recognised the make and model of the drone that he saw. The AirProx board, which is in the UK, said, in the board's opinion, the reported altitude and or description of the object were sufficient to indicate that it could have been a drone. However, in order to positively identify the make, some members felt that the assessment of the separation from the aircraft may have been overestimated, or in other words, it's closer to the aircraft than was reported. Ultimately, the board agreed to move that the drone had been closer to the aircraft than the distance estimated. So the board then considered that the crew members' overall account of the incident portrayed a situation where safety had been much reduced below the norm to the extent that safety had been not assured. So that's the AirProx board in the UK. And they've done a large number of reports of drone near hits and all of those kind of things. But here's my question. When is the day going to come when we're going to have a GoPro mounted in the front windscreen of every aircraft? We've got dash cams. Why not in a plane? Because all of these, I saw a UFO. When is that going to end?
It's interesting you mentioned dash cams. I really don't know whether dash cams are going to see many drones because they're incredibly hard to sight at any reasonable distance at all. They're just not visible. And I've gone out looking, and when I've been flying myself, I know where people are flying, and I just can't spot them. And you know what it's like? It's hard enough for you to spot your own aircraft at 400 meters from the ground when you know where it is. Am I right? You look at
Absolutely.
the size of your Mavic 2 at 400 meters, which is pretty much the limit of visual line of sight. It is an absolute dot. So we're talking about looking out an aeroplane window, right?
That was the next thing I was about to say. That was what I was about to say. You've got your pilot sitting in his chair strapped in, or he's up and about walking around in the cabin where he's not going to have good view of the window. In either event, this just seems like another shopping bag as far as I'm concerned.
Look, the Boeing's doing some maths on see and avoid at the moment. It's very interesting. And I can't remember her name. I remember her first name, Natasha. The recent conference, she talked about the way closing angles and visibility works. And it was a really good presentation. If you go and check out AAUS website, you'll probably find it there. But here's the thing: if the aircraft is more than 500 meters away, and we agree that would be a speck, so you wouldn't see it anyway. As it gets closer to the aircraft, say it's now only 100 meters away. Well,
how long is it going to be seen for?
You're not going to see it. It's going to go so fast past the aeroplane at 100 meters that it's going to be difficult to spot whether it's a plastic bag or an aircraft either. So you've got two different problems, and it's basically revolves around the size of the aircraft being so small and the closing speeds being so high. And look, my experience in flying manned aircraft is if you're looking around for Cessnas and things, and they're giving you reports at 2 miles, well, it's a hard ask to see something at 2 miles, even the size of a Cessna, and literally knowing what the size of our aircraft now. So, look, dash cams, and that was what let me on, Greg. There's going to be an electronic solution to this that's going to work much better.
I'm glad you went there. I'm glad you went there because this was, I'd have to go and double check the story, but I think this was out of Gatwick as well, our favourite airport. And it is absolutely inconceivable to think that they wouldn't have drone detection systems that are going to actually have a look at the RF and confirm or deny if it was there. But of course, they don't report about that. The AirProx board says someone saw a drone, but they don't say in their report, we did not see a drone in any of our monitoring systems because it doesn't suit the narrative.
Yeah, well, here's the thing I'm seeing now. DJI themselves have said we're going to incorporate ADS-B into all our future aircraft from Mavic 3 onwards. excuse me. And what we're going to see there is we're going to see a situation like the no-fly zone. Now, I'm not going to set up for an argument today about rights and wrongs of where you fly, but I believe that with their corporate stance on where you can and cannot fly by limiting those things, that the next level will be see and avoid. So when an aircraft is detected within 1,500 meters of you, it will be either flying home or flying the other way or landing within 1,500 meters. And look, the tech's there to do that. Obviously, the ADS-B signal's there, and it may, the debate will come up. We'll be having that debate on this show, I reckon, within the next year. That's what we'll be doing, and you won't be able to fly close enough to an aircraft. And 1,500 meters is the basic standard separation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be right. I think definitely. And speaking of no-fly zones, our next story, the federal government in the US has temporarily banned drones from flying over parts of Portland, where ongoing protests show no sign of abating. They say if you violate the rules, your drone could be seized and then even destroyed. And I think that's the wrong picture. We're on 1.04. Let's try that again. There we go. That's the one. So that's our TFR and the restrictions, 1.04. Did I miss a story? But John, what do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I think that's personally reasonable. It's public safety. You might sort of talk about, obviously, they don't want things being filmed. They don't want there's more. But look, people are out there filming on mobile phones and so forth during all of that unrest. So there's no argument there. I think probably more to do with they're having the airspace locked down so that they could use it for emergency response for helicopters and other things, And what it suggests is that there's a lot of drone activity at the moment. I would venture to say that there are plenty of people flying in that area, doing lots and lots of filming, and there's sort of dangers associated with that. So the best thing to do is put a TFR up, because then obviously if you don't want them to fly, you can try and manage that a little bit. You could pose all sorts of other things. Oh, it's the news media. They don't want to have other people in there, and they, all sorts of reasons. But the other side of the coin is, and we know this unfortunately to be true, that with open skies over that type of area and the things that are going on there, there's going to be people that are doing stupid things. Do we agree?
Absolutely.
There's going to be stupid people, unfortunately, but it's going to happen. Sorry, if you're one of those.
I agree. I'm not one of the stupid ones, though. None of us are here. We've got the smart guys watching our show, and I'm so smart that I got it out of order, so we're going to go back to the previous story now. Drone stations are a thing, but the current ones force drones to land for the full charging time or to swap a battery for a new one automatically. But StoreDot has developed a flash battery technology that reduces charging times without much effect on the density of the battery. Now, looking at this clip here, I don't have any audio, but you can see the subtitles at the bottom. The deal is it's basically a 5-minute charge cycle to be able to charge your drone using the new technology. Now, I was curious about this. I hadn't heard about this new technology in batteries, but it's starting to make sense now. I recently got a new car, and it's a hybrid. And then I heard about the next model, which is going to be able to be 30 kilometers on the batteries that are built into the car. And apparently it's the same battery density. So yes, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff coming up in the battery space.
Well, we all know that the batteries are the reasons we've got the toys that we've got. There's no doubt about that. Of course, you can give plenty of kudos to brushless motors and ESCs and the electronics, but at the end of the day, you can have all of that, but you don't have a battery you can fly with. And I look at it right across the board. Right across the medical industry is as excited about this as we are, because a lot of their battery powered, from pacemakers and to other devices that they use in medicine as well, just gives them huge possibilities with robotics and medicine. So it's always going to be a space where there's plenty of R&D in terms of how we store our fuel and how it's going to be managed. wow, I'm kind of glad we live live in the time when we've got, lithium polymer and chemicals like that give us this sort of stuff. Electric cars,
Yeah.
and I hope from my time I hope we see a more electric flight, in terms of manned aircraft. So that'll be an amazing dream.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that. So do watch that space. And by the way, all of the stories we've got today, if people want to read more, go to the description for the video and you can have a look at the original source material that we found all this from today and find out more. Our next story is a flapping drone. A drone with flapping wings that can make quick turns like a bird could one day be used to monitor crowds as well as crops in fields. The drone consists of a motor and a battery attached to a set of X-shaped wings made from polyurethane film and carbon fibre. It also has rear stabilising fins made from expanded polystyrene.
Hey, good one, man, good one.
Don't you fly?
Huh?
You want to fly?
Up to you.
Let's just play that clip again, just one more time, just to have a look at it, because it's a very short
What you
clip.
doing, Dan?
Oops.
Hey, good one, man, good one.
Don't you fly?
Huh?
You want
I
to
don't
fly?
know what the audio
Up you
is
up.
in the background, but an interesting aircraft.
Yeah, that's unusual, isn't it? What
Yeah,
what were the materials again?
It's X-shaped wings made with a polyurethane film and carbon fibre, and it also has a rear stabilising fin made from expanded polystyrene.
I might have to dig up a close-up photo of it rather than the video so we can have a look at it.
Yeah. But in
Yeah,
the
very
meantime, again, the link to the original story is available if people want to go. The link's in the description for our video. But at this point in time, we've got through the first half of our news, and as always, we try and mix it up a little bit. It's time to bring in our guest for today, Dan O'Neill. And there he is. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome for joining. Where are you based, Dan? You're an Aussie. I can tell that you're not one of the Yanks we have on quite frequently.
I'm in Brisbane, Queensland.
Bris Vegas. Okay. So you had a video that we featured some time ago, and I'll just quickly tell the story of what happened. There was a video that you were in that was part of Explore Australia, and that was curated by Greg Hilton. That was a feature, and you commented on that video probably only within the last week or so, saying, look, thanks for the shout out. I only just found out about it now. And I said, look, we'll have to get you on. But what was that original video that we looked at all those months ago?
That was I think that was the first flight that I did with the Mavic Air. I had a spark to start off with, that sort of got me into droning, but before that, it was a knockoff that I got off of Geek. It was I think it was a Mavic clone or something like that. But that was just, partner and I were just out for a drive and usually got it charged up and sort of ready to go. So took a drive out to Cedar Creek and just sent it.
Okay. So how did you get into drones in the first place? What are the drones that you have? What do you fly? And I noticed that you've got a business name, Southie Films. Is that predominantly drone based, or do you do other photography work as well?
It's all I seem to have latched on to the sort of cinematic footage aspect of things. I haven't had too much time with the stills or photography parts of it, but it was just a curiosity that sort of piqued my interest. And as any other hobby that I've ever had, I'll buy something that's somewhat decent to sort of see how committed I get to the hobby and sort of work my way up from there. So the knockoff drone that I had, the slightest, it had a crappy sort of camera on it, and some dodgy little app that you use to fly it. But when I sort of wanted to keep going, I bought a secondhand Spark off Gumtree, and that was, for me, instantly it was worlds apart. The difference between a cheap drone and say the DJI's is massive. The stability and just the ease of control was really noticeable.
Okay.
That Spark, funnily enough, is at the bottom of the Brisbane River.
Okay. And I'm sure there's a great story to hear on that one.
Yeah, so with ADDI mode, I didn't know what that stood for until after I did a swan dive back. So I quite like the fly through sort of shots with cinematic, I guess droning. And I was lining up. It was maybe 4 feet off the water, and lining up to go under a bridge. But I was going too slow. I was in tripod mode or something like that. And I've gone through, and I'm under the bridge, which has then disconnected me from the satellites. It's gone in ADDI mode. As I've come out the other end of the bridge, it's just sort of gone up and then just swan dived into the river.
Yeah, actually, flying
Never to
under
be seen
bridges.
again. I was in the air for a minute and a half.
Yeah, flying under bridges is something that you really, really need to be careful of. I've noticed that myself. As soon as you get even forgetting the disconnection, the metal interfering with your compass and your IMU, I had some rapid changes in altitude myself. Yeah. John, is that something that you would comment on briefly?
Oh, sorry, I missed that. An aeroplane just went over. What was the one question? I was there.
Yeah, just asking about, so Dan was talking about how he was flying and he had a disconnection under a bridge. And I was talking about how once I was flying under a bridge and the metal structure just interfered with the IMU and compass and all of that kind of stuff, and it had a rapid change in altitude.
Yeah, there's been a couple of problems with that. Remember the famous crash on the Harbour Bridge? And we've reminded everybody, when you're flying next to a big bridge or anything with a lot of ferrous metal in it, things are a little bit better these days. The VPS in the later models and the Mavic 2 will stabilize the aeroplane ahead of what the compass will do. But yeah, always got to be careful flying under bridges for all sorts of reasons, depending on what they're made of. Mostly, it's most important. If it's a concrete bridge, it'll only have a lot less steel reinforcement. But if it's a big iron bridge, it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a look at some of your clips now, Dan. I've got one lined up ready, which is one that you're maybe not expecting.
Nothing illegal.
Not in our man, anyway. This is a while ago.
So you've gone from spud cannons to drones. How did you start with spud cannons? Yep. It was the first video I saw on your channel.
I don't know. I've always been one to sort of team out with things, or I had somebody sort of put it in words that sort of made sense to me a few years ago, and it was, I'm biochemically designed to constantly seek stimulus. So there's many hobbies on the go at the moment. So, I mean, there's electric skateboards that I do as well, which is handy with active track on the drones. So sometimes I'll do both. But the spud cannon was just something I just looked up cool stuff to make at home. That was sort of the first thing that came up, and I finally found a use for Brute.
Brute 33.
Yeah. Wouldn't put it on the. Yeah, the Brute spray was for it because it had butane and propane in it. So rather than put it anywhere near me or on my skin, it was good to make the spud cannon go.
Okay, something unusual. And then we've got a couple of other clips, and these ones are some drone footage now. Let's play the next one. So what are we looking at here?
This This was 2 days ago. So we got up early and went out for the sunrise out at Brighton, which is about 25 minutes north of Brizzy. I'm sort of in the heart of, well, just shy of the CBD of Brisbane. So partner and I went out there. It's the first time I've taken the Mavic Air 2 out there. And it was also the first time I'd used ND filters. So in my previous videos, I'd asked for a bit of constructive feedback, and somebody had said something about ND filters, and I'd actually forgot that the Fly More combo came with them.
I do love the perspective as you were. I do love the perspective as you were just orbiting that tree stump that was hanging out there, and also some beautiful reflections here.
I love orbiting things like that's all manual. Like, I like the quick shots, but I know there's a quick shot that'll do rocket like that, but the rocket was a bit too slow. But I like as well. But also, you know, your sort of top downs, or I don't know. It's probably the most creative I've had. I haven't really had anything else that sort of peek through, and then, you know, wherever we're out and about, I'll sort of see things and then start working out how I'm going to fly my drone to capture something that's going to be decent.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful footage. We've got one more clip, which is also a fairly new one. This is your first flight with your Mavic Air 2. And John, check this out. This is absolutely stunning. We don't have audio with this one, and that's fine. But again, just a new clip and some great perspective here. Where are you flying?
So that's I was down at the Brisbane Powerhouse, but I love flying around the Story Bridge, but there's cliffs on either side of it, which is massive interference, plus the bridge itself. So you can't always sort of down here at the Powerhouse. This actually used to be a functioning sort of powerhouse for Brisbane back in the day, and if there will be a shot that comes up, but when I think the 74 floods happened, there's a marker just down there no, I didn't get it, but that was the powerhouse on the right. But from where I was going when I started, well, that's sort of I guess you can sort of see the range. I'm standing sort of just there on the edge of the water, and yeah, just sort of sent it towards the city just to see how far I could go. The Mavic Air wouldn't go anywhere close to that.
But some good range out of the air too. Beautiful footage.
A lot of that comes from OcuSync too. I've done some flying from Kangaroo Point down there near where the Jazz Club is. You know that spot, Dan. And in the early days when we flew the Phantom 3 down there, it was a mess, and mostly because of Wi-Fi from the surrounding buildings on the other side. You've got so much Wi-Fi interference as well that's working against you. OcuSync 2 is really a lot cleaner, and so I think one of the things about the Mavic 2 Air, again, that is a great advantage in when you're flying in urban environments, is that it's just not affected the same way by the amount of Wi-Fi signal. So it's a much more robust connection.
Yeah.
Look,
some really good footage. Tell me what's the future hold for you in terms of what you want to do with your drones and photography? What's the plan?
I just like going. Like, it's, as I said, the evolution for me is just to see where it's going to take me. It's, you know, even with Brighton, I've done a few videos out of Brighton. Every time I go there's something different. If the tides are different, or if it's high tide, low tide, sunsets or sunrises, it's always something new or something that I'll see. I'll see schools of fish if the water's clear. But, you know, like my commitment's getting stronger and stronger. I've upgraded my editing software and my computer. But my next sort of project, I want to make something for Queensland, or southeast Queensland, where it's, you know, you pretty much drive an hour and a half in any direction, and you'll either get beach, rainforest, you know, sort of arid sort of dry land, or just the culmination of so many different sort of landscapes, and just sort of mix that together and just see how it goes with that.
Okay. Look, some great conversation. I'll ask you if you can stick around in a minute inside the chat room, have a chat to a few people there. We've got Nightbot going and putting a link to your channel in there. I'd encourage all of our regulars to go and check out Dan's channel. He's only got under 20 subscribers, and let's get a few more on there today and check out some of his footage. Really, really good material in there. Now, at this time of the show, very often we do Stump the Yank, and we'll go and put that up on the screen, but this time we're going to yank the stump a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stump the Yank.
So, Dan, you're not familiar with this, obviously, but we have some fun on the show. Where's the music? Down there. I can't see the faders on the screen. Can I get my producer to show me the audio so I can see it? Cover it up. There we go, that's better. So we're going to have some fun now. Normally we play Stump the Yank, and we've got Aussie trivia questions for guests that come from America, but today you're an Aussie, so we're going to have some fun of a different kind. Now your picture's getting a little bit messed up today, and apologies to our viewers for that. But what we're going to do, Lloydie, we're going to bring you in, and there's Dan on the other side. We were having a conversation earlier today about your dinner.
Yes.
So let's get the three of them up. We'll get Johnny in the screen as well. There we go. Tell me about your dinner and just see if people understand and know what this food is.
Well, we had leftovers. I had brown beans and cornbread.
So
you guys ever heard of that? I can't hear John.
You're muted, John.
Brown beans,
the cornbread.
Okay, so beans I get. We have red beans here, and they all seem to do the same thing to me. But the cornbread,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so the cornbread's always been interesting. So you can make bread out of wheat, and you're just doing the same thing with corn.
Well, yeah, I mean it's corn flour. Actually, what I buy is a mix that's already put together. You just put in the egg, the milk, whip, mix it up, throw it in the oven for, 20 minutes in a pan, in a glass dish, and 300 or 400 degrees, and it's ready to go. There's two different versions. There's sweet corn, which is a sweet cornbread, which has got a little more sugar to it, and then you got what I call the dry. A lot of Southern cornbread is this way. It's real dry, and it's not near as sweet. And I like the sweet cornbread, obviously. But,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and brown beans are actually pinto beans.
Pinto beans.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds like something would go well with beer.
No.
We're Australian. We're Australian. Everything goes well with beer.
Yeah.
But Dan, are you aware of any of these things? Have you heard of brown beans and cornbread?
Definitely the cornbread. I spent 5 years in North Carolina from when I was 15 to 20. So I love Southern food.
Yeah.
So, there's, collard greens and hog moles and all sorts of weird stuff that you probably wouldn't like to eat. But
hog jaws and chitlins. That's yeah. I don't eat chitlins. No way do I want to. Just the cooking of chitlins smells terrible.
No.
Can you explain what chitlins are for the Australians out there?
Yeah, chitlins are basically hog intestines, and they're chopped up. Some people fry them. You can get fried chitlins, or you can cook them into a soup. People boil them. They're rank smelling. I don't care what you do to them.
My wife was telling me that she likes that, and I didn't know that. So
yeah. And of course, then we've got head cheese, which is another Southern delicacy, which is a gelatinous hog brains. Usually, they take the scrapings of the inside of a hog head, and hog jaws, of course, is the jaws is boiled and the meat's pulled off of it, and you throw the bone away or give it to your dog, and then you eat the meat in a soup usually with chitlins.
We have T-bone down here. We don't have to eat that stuff.
Well, we do too. We do too. We have calf brains, fried calf brains.
Sheep's brains is haggis. The Scottish eat that.
Yeah.
I always ask, they don't have anything else to eat, but because that wouldn't be your first choice, would it?
None of those, other than the brown beans and cornbread, is. Now I have had. I've had. I can't remember.
Can I jump in,
yeah.
Lloyd? I've got to jump in for a second, just to share one other that we were talking about earlier today, which is balot.
Yes.
This is something that my wife's country has, and basically, if you can imagine an egg with embryo inside, partially developed, it's very often still got a beak inside there, and some feathers, and they eat that as a delicacy in the Philippines. But anyway,
I think it's a cultural thing because it wouldn't end up in my house, but I understand why it would have. We have we have a galah soup over here, which is nice, and it's cooked in a pan with rocks. Some of you may know that recipe. You have that, Greg?
No.
Galah soup. Oh, it's quite easy. You get some nice round flat rocks and you put them in the bottom of a pan and a dish, and you put boiling water and you boil up then put the galahs in, and then when it's sort of all turned into a nice soup, you drain it out and you eat the rocks.
Another one that Art brought up, and we have down here we have calf fries. That's another one.
Is that right? Yeah.
Rocky Mountain oysters.
So it's time for a little bit of fun. We're going to quickly jump into a bit of joking off. So, Dan, you got a joke that you're going to tell, and you've got a simple goal. You've got to make either one of the other two people on the screen laugh to get a point. What do you got for us?
I'll have to keep it sort of PG too, won't I?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. What did the saggy boob say to the other saggy boob?
I don't know. What?
If we don't get some support soon, people are going to think we're nuts.
That's good.
Sorry, that was funny. I lost. That was good. Yeah. That one.
Lloyd is famous for being able to hold a concrete face when people tell him jokes. That was a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
It was.
One from Lloyd.
Let me see if I've got any. What country's capital has the fastest growing population? Ireland.
Know.
Every day it's Dublin.
Yeah.
Well, at least John snickered. That's the best I could hope for.
It was
today.
a snicker. That's half a point.
Yeah,
that's half a point. John?
That's a curse.
Yeah, pretty much is a pity laugh. I know. Okay.
I like having jokes on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But I think I might have told the one I had in mind, which was what's the difference between a banjo and a trampoline? Did anyone know? Did we do that one?
No. What's the difference?
You've got the difference between a banjo and a trampoline is that you're supposed to take your shoes off before you jump on a trampoline.
They're doing very well, John. I'm sorry. You got 0 points. So the winner is definitely our guest today, Dan. Thanks for being with us.
I would have normally laughed at that because I was in a bluegrass band, and banjos are the most hated instrument in the world.
Sorry, Dan, you were saying something?
I was just saying, thanks for having me, and of course for the exposure. And sorry, it took me 8 months to reply to that comment from that video.
Well, there's a secret. You do have to reply to your YouTube comments.
This all eventuated in the last 3 days.
Yeah, this
I
only
didn't even
happened
know
3
it was
days ago.
there.
Yeah. Anyway, look, thanks for being with us. We've had a little bit of delay on your line today, so we're going to go back to Johnny and myself, and we'll go through a little bit more of the news. Stick around, have a chat in the chat room. And again, to our regular viewers, please do go to Dan's channel. Lloyd, if you could just post the link manually now, if you've seen it before from Nightbot, that'd be helpful. But for
Yeah, as
now,
soon as
Thanks, guys.
But for now, let's get back to part 2 of the news. And in particular, British troops are testing a new nano drone, which is smaller than a can of Red Bull and can be fired from a grenade launcher. The tiny D40 drone can be fitted with a camera or loaded with explosives to form a tiny guided bomb. The drone, controlled by a smartphone, will let troops see over sand dunes to avoid surprise attacks. And we've got a second photo of that one there that we'll just throw up as well. So that was a can of Red Bull, and there's the drone.
I would suggest that's Red Bull with vodka in it.
Well, it was Red Bull and they gave it wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the size, I mean, we've seen a couple of cylinder-shaped aircraft before. It's a pretty logical shape because it's reasonably aerodynamic in most circumstances anyway. And it, for volume, it's actually quite efficient as well. But, if you can obviously fire this thing out, and then the props are able to come out from the can itself and fly. I mean, I've seen these sort of things on sci-fi and on movies and so forth, but it's a very logical sort of shape to have for a UAV. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and certainly easy for military applications if they do want to load munitions into it to drop them. Just open the bomb bay door inside the can of Red Bull and away you go.
Yeah, although not having a camera on an aircraft really saves lots and lots of space and problems about where you're going to put it and gimbals and all that sort of thing. If you just got the aircraft and you just need the motors and a circuit board, battery, and whatever else you're going to carry, it's a lot less complicated and you don't really need a C2 link either. Of course, once you're operating with an aircraft like that, it doesn't need to have any kind of telemetry. If you just launch it, it knows where it's supposed to go. It'll go there. Yeah,
absolutely. And our next story, we go on to drone corridors, and in particular, Altitude Angel has announced a partnership with Skyfarer, Flypulse, and Coventry University to develop a drone delivery corridor in the Midlands in the UK. The 4 companies have joined together to create an international consortium to enable medical and other deliveries via drones beyond visual line of sight. As part of the partnership, Skyfarer's system will allow companies to easily access an ecosystem of drones which can be used in a various number of logistical operations in a safe and cost-effective manner. The drones deployed by Skyfarer will be used in the transportation of medicine, blood samples, test kits, food, and various other goods. Have you heard much about Altitude Angel in the past, first of all, John?
I've just started doing a bit of checking up. They're obviously a company with a few good technology partners as well, and they've definitely got some good people working for them. The corridor idea is a great way to narrow down risk. So what you really want to do, if you're going to, and even an interesting thing, if you fly yourself in an urban kind of space, or you want to fly in an urban space, and you want to go fly somewhere and take a photo within line of sight, of course, think about the corridor that you're going to fly over. If you've got a choice of flying over a tree line or, and it doesn't take much extra time, then corridor flying is a very smart way to mitigate risk, and often a good way to get your airplane back if you lose it as well. But commercial companies are looking at corridor safety because it opens up ways for them to get places beyond visual line of sight, and all they have to do is mitigate the risk in the corridor. Outside the corridor, it doesn't matter. So you can be, as long as there's separation there and it's away from airspace problems. So it's we're going to see more of that as well. We're going to see in commercial operations, we're going to see corridors that are opened up for drone use, and they'll be marked on aviation charts. They'll be beyond visual line of sight. And manned aircraft sort of fly in corridors anyway these days. We do have corridors when you're looking at things across the Atlantic and the way traffic is managed. High volume traffic is managed in busy airspace. It's done in a similar sort of fashion. And of course, sometimes corridors are made for political reasons. You know, if you don't want to be flying over a sensitive area or a particular electorate, they route the airplanes away. That's happened here in Australia quite a few times. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to look at. I think we should keep our eye on it, and we should probably take some lessons from it if we can.
Yeah. Speaking of flying in corridors, I remember there was a feature on the Phantom 4 range of drones where you can set a straight line, and you then limit yourself to controlling the yaw of the drone and also the speed and direction, and just simplifying it. If you want to do some cinematic work, you can get some really nice footage out of that, doing the perspective, just focusing on those two angles.
Yep.
But anyway.
Well, that's one of the things, just really quick, that's what we're doing in security work at the moment. So we do flight plans for the aircraft might be flying around the perimeter of a sensitive site or even a commercial site, and the actual aircraft just stays on rails going around that perimeter, that corridor, and you're able to yaw the airplane, change the camera, look wherever you like as the aircraft slowly crawls around the perimeter space. So yeah, it's easy to do on your DJI aircraft. You can set it up and do it with waypoint flying. It's fun, and it's a nice, very safe way to fly if you're programming shots as well, and you want a nice straight line, you want to get a line into a particular shot, use waypoints to do it, and you can fly the corridor first, make sure it's safe and you're not going to hit anything, and then you're free to concentrate on the camera work.
Absolutely. And now we're going to move on to something else, the Heron drone. I was quite amused when I saw this one in the context of our friend Ken Heron. In this story, an unmanned aerial vehicle made in Israel for Germany's defense ministry completed its first successful flight. Builder Israel Aerospace Industries has announced. The aircraft, known as the Heron TP, has been modified to the specs of German Defense Ministry, completed its first flight on Sunday in Israel. The medium-altitude, long-endurance Heron TP is regarded as the company's most advanced drone. Let's just have a look at this one. So I just had to put this one in the list of stories just because it's a Heron one, but let's have a look.
The cooperation between Israel and Germany. While Israeli state-of-the-art UAV for the German Air Force made its first flight in Israeli skies. This event resembles the deep collaboration between Germany and Israel.
This is a very unique plane. It's a high altitude, medium endurance plane, which is a top of the line UAV. A UAV that is competing in many tenders around the world. And we have done that working jointly with Airbus, with the MODs, Israeli MOD and German MOD, and all our partners. And we are very proud to introduce this new bird.
So just because of its name, and also it's an interesting story nonetheless, but the Heron TP drone. Does anyone see the irony in the fact that Israel is making aircraft for the German Defense Ministry?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair point. Lloyd's shaking his head in the background, agreeing. It is, I suppose, that stranger things have happened in terms of alliances and partnerships in the Middle East with all sorts of various people there. America often, from my observation, swaps, between 1 minute someone's an ally and then they're an enemy, and then they're. I think a lot of it revolves around sale of weapons. Make of that what you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. We're getting close to the end of our show today. We've got a few more quick ones. The next one is a fire drone, and we've seen some stuff like this before, but this one came in my news feed this week. Drone taxis may be years away from mainstream implementation, but firefighting drones offer a critical tool for right now, and EHang have demonstrated this in the story we're about to look at. Can I just say, the model that you were seeing there on the ground there, it looked like it was something from a toy store with the cannons on the front, like a Nerf gun, but looks really good once it's up in the air.
Yeah, these
I think
guys,
this is...
they built some great airplanes, don't they? Look at that.
They do. And I think especially if you have a look what they're trying to do in getting passenger aircraft approved and productionized, doing something like this with a very similar model of aircraft first, very smart, very intelligent. Once people start to trust the aircraft and its safety in fighting a fire, it's going to be a lot easier to get it approved for passenger use as well.
Yeah, totally agree. It's a company, obviously, that's showing really a lot of leadership. I noticed they've been putting more and more props on their airplanes as they go. The first one was a 4-arm octocopter and a single-seater. The 2-seaters got 16 motors. It's basically an octocopter with motors up and down. Great machines. They look really good, and they if you watch some of the videos of them being constructed, you can see just how much work goes into the frame itself and the actual integrity of the frame. Ballistic parachutes, all sorts of stuff. These airplanes are really at the top of their game.
Absolutely. 2 comments that just came up on the screen. Firstly, that drone is straight out of Star Trek from Nick. Yeah. But the other one, the comment from Wayne King, thank you for the super chat, for the $10 contribution.
Thanks,
hi, Greg and team. Good show. Thanks, Wayne. You're a champion and a good regular supporter of the show. I've got 3 more quick ones. These are really quick. The first one, this one's the mama drone. You've probably heard about cases where certain bird species will perceive a drone as a threat and attack it, right? Well, not in this case. Check it out. So in this case, the drone is actually literally the mama drone, and it's being used to deliver food to a rare vulture. So what actually happened here, I think it was the mother that died. The father was still around. And it's an endangered species. And as a result, they were delivering food because the father couldn't rear it alone. But the drone, which is actually a military drone, they've blurred it out because the particular government didn't want their drone to be on film. But using that technology nonetheless to save this bird. And at the end of the story, you see him fly away and hopefully live a happy life thereafter.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But I think it's also cool that he didn't, panic at the sound of a drone. A lot of people panic about drones interacting with nature, and it might be something new the first time. You don't want to deliberately go and chase after them, but certainly that does prove that drones can be helpful and coexist.
Oh, they're fantastic in the environment at the moment. We're seeing lots and lots of good data coming out from wildlife, marine mammal specialists, and all sorts of people are using them very productively at the moment. And we're not talking about just someone taking a picture. We're talking about species tracking and, looking after health and environment and habitats of so many animals. And the drone does it without leaving much of a footprint, if any at all. And that's been a first. You can't. There's nothing else that will do what a drone will do in terms of managing sort of environmental problems like that. Nothing.
Yeah. And just another quick super chat. Thank you to Zebmeat. Great show, fellas. $10 super chat from Zebmeat. Thanks for that. It's all very much appreciated. And we're going to go to our next story. We got 2 left. The next one is what I call a sea drone. You see the drone, but where do you see it? This particular drone swells off Portugal's famed Praia do Norte can become so massive that even drones have a tough time keeping a safe distance. Let's have a look. Some nice surfing action.
Wow, that's unbelievable. That's
Would you
unbelievable.
fly that close?
I'm just looking at the surfer at the moment. Well, you know, my Mavic Zoom does a really good job of making it look that close, I can tell you that. We have lots of talk around the fireside about the Pro and the Zoom, but I'm telling you, there's times that the Zoom is a really good tool because you can take those kind of shots and you can be well back in a nice safe spot. Just thought I'd throw it out there, guys. Comments welcome. Comments welcome.
Just checking out the ending piece here.
Oh man, it's fantastic footage.
And that's where it
Whoa.
ends. And that's where it ends. So, yeah, definitely need to be careful when you're flying around water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good tip about the zoom. Our last one today. This one's what I call a buggy drone. Aerial views of autumn sunsets, golden glow featuring Amish buggies, volleyball, round bales, and farm silhouettes. Now, I'm not going to play the entire clip because I got permission from the guy who created this to show a little bit, but I'm going to encourage you to go and check out the information in the description to go to his channel. We'll just skip across a little bit. Some really, really good video work there as well, and an interesting set of subject matter. Do go out and check out the info in the description and have a look at the original clip. Anyway, we've reached the end of our show today, and thank you very, very much to John. Thank you to Lloyd and also to Dan in the background. Let's get all four of us up one more time. There we go. Thanks very much for being with us. Any last words from you, Dan?
No, as I said, thanks again for having me on. It's pretty surreal, like just from bumping into that comment from so long ago, and then to being able to catch up with you on the show.
Yeah,
So
it's lovely to have you on.
Thanks for the exposure, and thanks to everyone that.
Lovely to have you on, and love your content on your channel as well. Everyone who's watching, do go and check it out. Go to Dan's channel. Make sure you subscribe and have a look at some of his other clips. Lloydie?
Oh, always fun being on your show. Always fun watching it, and definitely, Dan, you do some great work there. So, guys, make sure you follow up and keep track of what he's got going on there. And thanks for having me on, Greg.
As always, Johnny.
You make me work, but
Yeah, that's right. Great to share Saturday morning with you guys and everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure your firmware's up to date. Fly safe, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, that's all we've got time for. We've got our celebrity squares here. It's been fun. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being part of the show. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.